Good morning and welcome to Tax Strategies. These are high-level, exciting stuff. I've been meeting with a lot of tax professionals over the last few weeks to make sure that I'm maximizing, or shall I say minimizing my tax, so in a legal, moral, and ethical way. So let me walk you through some of the pros and cons of some of the key strategies. I'll give you a brief description, talk about the ratios, pros and cons. The ratio is how much money that you put in to get and how much benefit on taxes you get back out. So let me start with a restricted property trust. I just learned about this last week. It's like a key man life insurance policy. So in other words, in your business, you can make yourself get a key man insurance. So essentially, if you die, you can pass it on to your family. You can have insurance. So it's kind of like a regular life insurance cash value plan, but it has some added benefits and some added restrictions. So first of all, let's talk about the ratio. Let's say you put $100,000 in, you get a $70,000 tax write-off, which, could save you $25,000, $30,000 in actual money. So that's what I mean by the ratio. 100,000 gives you $70,000 write-off. So it does give you some personal insurance benefit that you can, get to your family or whatever. And the cool thing is that it does have like a double benefit in terms of you can get a tax write-off when you put money into this, and then you can get some tax-free growth as the policy grows. You can get some money tax-free, which is pretty cool. Some of the cons are that it's totally illiquid. So you put $100,000 in, and you can't do policy loans. You can't pull that money out. That's one of the reasons why this is I don't know if I want to do that. But so it's illiquid for at least 5 years. You could extend it to 10 years, and at which point you have to recapture the write-off that you got. However much write-off you got, you have to recapture that at the end of the 5 or 10 year period. Now the nice thing is that you can have the benefit cover a lot of that recapture cost. So so that's nice in terms of the benefit can kind of cover you. The other con of this strategy is that there's a huge possible loss if you stop making. Let's say you agree to put in $100,000 a year, and you stop making that payment. Ultimately, you have to designate a charity, and if you stop making that payment, all that money that you put in goes to that charity. So that's one of the restrictions. That's partly how it can get this tax favorable treatment, is because, if you stop making the payments, you're going to kind of lose all that benefit. So if you're worried at all about that, this isn't a good strategy. But I like the double benefit that you can get, and the life insurance benefit is real. And you can get, about a 5% return on your money tax-free, which isn't huge, but it is a benefit. Okay, let's talk next about are you as close as you can get? Let's talk a little bit about the business insurance. So this is kind of similar, except that instead of insuring yourself as a key man or key woman, whatever they call it, right? You are effectively insuring the business against risks that you might have in your business, and this is a 1-to-1 ratio. So you put in $100,000, you get a $100,000 write-off. Now, there's fees to all these things, so it's not perfectly a 1-to-1. You're going to have to, I think with this one, you're usually going to have to pay $5,000 or $6,000 to set it up. So, it's not perfectly a 1-to-1, but essentially a 1-to-1 ratio. The benefit, the pro here, is that the business is insured. This is a real benefit. You could mitigate certain risks, certain liabilities, umbrella coverage. So that, you get some real benefits here that your business could really use. You can write this off now. And same with this. Most of these you can write them off now. I'm going to point out in the cons, some of them you can't write off now. The nice thing too is after a year, you can take loans on this policy, and so you can, so there's some nice. It is tied up for a year, right? So that's one of the cons, is that the money's tied up. But at least you can pull it out, after a year. The ratio isn't great, 1-to-1. So essentially you spend $100,000, you get $100,000 tax write-off, but that may only give you actually, maybe $35,000 in actual savings. But there's a real benefit, and you can loan from it in the future, which is great. Okay, so let's move to business intelligence. Business intelligence is like this. Okay, so you're gonna have it's a 1-to-4 ratio. So in other words, you're gonna buy. There's a company out there that's losing money, has huge losses on their books, and you're gonna buy some business intelligence from them. Let's say you put $100,000 in as a down payment for $400,000 worth of business intelligence. Okay, so as a down payment, so that's why you're going to get, potentially a $400,000 write-off with a $100,000 contribution. So the ratio is pretty great here, and you might actually benefit from the business intelligence. You might not. Right? So they're going to give you different stuff like what their book said and how they marketed, whatever. There's all kinds of different business intelligence. There might be an actual benefit for you, and you do get a benefit now. You get that immediate write-off. The con is that you have to recapture. After, usually it's about a 5-year contract where you've made that down payment now, got the benefit now, but then you have to recapture that, let's say you got a $400,000 benefit. You obviously don't have to recapture the $100,000 that you paid in cold hard cash. You're going to have to recapture the other $300,000. And you might find that there wasn't a huge benefit to that business intelligence. So, the main benefit here is this ratio is awesome. Otherwise, you might as well just, if you're just looking for write-offs, you might as well just write off like just invest in your business, that that there's going to be benefit. But here you get the 1-to-4 ratio, which is awesome. So that's a little summary of this. And by the way, if you're interested in any of my contacts, if any of these strategies, connect with you, I've got contacts for each of these strategies. Now let's move on to artwork. Artwork is very similar in a way to business intelligence. You got a 1-to-4 ratio. There's companies that can put a stamp on your IRS, actually work directly with the IRS, and you can get, very legitimate stamp that shows, Anyway, so here's the pro, is that you can, if you find a cool piece of art, if you're into the art, you can actually keep the artwork for like a year before you donate it. The ratio's awesome. Here are some of the cons, some of the downs of this, is that, let's say you put $100,000 to buy a piece of art. You can get some of that this year, but most of that is going to go to next year because you have to hold that piece of art. So there's ways to get maybe 10 or 20% of that contribution up front. Most of it you got to kind of more plan ahead, and this is better for next year. It's write-off. And another limitation is it's a charitable contribution. So you can only get up to 50% of your earnings written off through charitable contributions. So there's a little bit of a con there. but definitely some benefits. Now let's talk about a vehicle. Like, let's say you get a truck, or even like, for example, a Tesla Model X. You can finance this. You can finance it, so you can leverage your credit. And if you don't leverage your credit, then it's a 1-to-1, right? 1-to-1. I'm just gonna say 1-to-20. Obviously it depends on your score and a million other things, but maybe you buy $100,000 car, you have to put $5,000 down. So that's why I put a possible 1-to-20, but it's totally variable. Variable. You're leveraging your credit in this sense. Nice benefit is there's no recapture. The ratio can be incredible. Now, I will point out that ultimately it's a 1-to-1 ratio over time, right? Because you can't just get out of that. So that's obviously something to think about. You got that liability of the loan. You maybe had to use your credit. And so you have to store that vehicle. Like for me, like right now, at least, I'm not really that keen to get like another car. Like I don't really have a great place to put it. I'm not really into trucking, driving around in a truck. I've considered a Model X, for my wife, but the van is, I don't know. Right now, for me, it's not really an awesome strategy, but it might be a great solution for you. So, and can get you a huge write-off fast. Now, let's talk about cost segregation. Cost segregation. For me, this is probably my number one strategy, and here's why. It gives me a chance to get some benefits. Give me incentive to do something that I wanted to do anyway. So, I'm not even going to put the ratio because it's so variable. But it can be amazing. I mean, I've even partnered up with other people and agreed to give them other benefits in exchange for me taking on some of the upfront benefits. So here's the nice thing with cost segregation. You can, with the new Republican tax bill that was passed 3 years ago, you can get 10 years worth of depreciation in the first year. So in other words, this is called accelerated depreciation. Acceleration of the cost seg. Okay, so it's not just regular cost seg. This is that bonus depreciation is one thing they call it. So let's say you buy a house for $400,000, and that could be leveraged. That could be on seller finance. I mean, maybe you only put like $5,000 down, right? I mean, that's why I'm not giving a ratio, but there is a 25% usually. You have a study done, which the study costs about $1,500 to do. And what you can do is you can write off, so you buy a $400,000 property, you can write off like say $100,000. So that's a huge benefit there, obviously, like a $100,000 write-off. And maybe you got that with a partner, maybe you got it on seller financing. Maybe you put hardly anything down and you got this huge write-off. So that's what I love about this. The ratio is amazing. And it gives me, and now I've got an asset that's appreciating, going up in value. And, if I wanted to, I could use another real estate tool, right? That's what I love about it's in real estate. So let's say I wanted to sell that property later on. Now, usually you'd have to recapture, which is one of the cons. But if you did a 1031 exchange, then you could kick that down even further and do a 1031 exchange. So the ratio's amazing. There's other ways to delay the taxes on the property, or maybe you just keep it long term and never sell the property, which is kind of what I'm really after doing. And then you don't have to really recapture if you're not going to sell it. You're just going to get the cash flow for the life of the property, right? So the downs here, of course, are that you do have to recapture. I had to recapture 1 or 2 properties this year. That's partly why I'm need to hurry and figure out what I'm going to do, and I have to get more properties. And the other down is that you do have to be a real estate professional to use this. So usually what that entails is you kind of have to be spending, like 15 hours a week. So maybe if you're not in a spot where you could legitimately claim that, maybe you have a spouse that, could start looking for some properties, get involved in real estate, whatever. Or I could help you join my Determined Dozen team. And, I usually like people to be putting in 10 to 15 hours a week at least. So you could get a lot of these benefits by being a real estate professional. All right, so last on the list here, let's just say you haven't done all this, because most of this stuff you pretty much have to do like right now. Or right now, at the filming of this video, it's November, so you must have done this, to get this benefit. But let's just say that you got stuck with like a $50,000 tax bill. And by the way, I think the limit is about $50,000 from what I understand. So if you're paying, more than $50,000 in taxes, so that's one limitation. Instead of paying the government, you could just send that money to an opportunity zone investment. So this is great. Again, if you're getting stuck with some issues, go ahead and you can invest it in a property. For example, one of my contacts has this beautiful hotel, like really nice. So you could have the benefit of using it. Like it's almost sort of like a timeshare, but you get like I think like a 7% return. So returns aren't great. The returns aren't amazing, but you could make some interest from, investing in this kind of opportunity zone type of thing with tax dollars that you would be sending to Uncle Sam. Instead, you're sending it to an investment and maybe making like a 7% return and getting a chance to go, to like a resort, right? So there's ways to kind of, even if you have to pay taxes, using the opportunity zone. And by the way, the opportunity zone, we haven't even touched on this. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with opportunity zones that can prevent a lot of taxes. That's kind of a strategy for another day. But in terms of if you got stuck with a tax bill, you can still make some interest and do some cool stuff with it. So thank you so much for joining. We've shown a lot of different strategies here. Please reach out to me if you need some help with your taxes. I'd love to help you out or give you contacts that can help you to make this all work. Thanks again for joining, and have an incredible rest of your day.